Good morning, American government. How are you? I hope you enjoyed your break. Wow, how things have changed. These next few weeks are going to be interesting, to say the least, yet lots of fun. But before we get started, just a couple things you need to know. As far as your assignments, you will find your assignments under the Modules tab on your Canvas account under American Government. Please review your Canvas account every single day. That way you will not be missing any important information. All the information you need, videos, work, assignments, due dates, things like that, will be on Canvas under that Modules tab. This week we're going to try to keep it fairly simple with the technology and straightforward, but as the weeks pass, we will tend to ramp it up just a little bit. In the event you need help, I'm here every day, Monday through Friday. Office hours are from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. I'm here to help you. So if things go sideways for you, whatever it takes, I'm here. Just send me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And actually, I'll get back to you that day, and we'll just work through whatever we need to fix. It won't be a problem. But my school hours, I'll be here Monday through Friday, 8 to 3:30. But specifically, I'll be here sitting in this chair waiting to help you from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. So if you need help, reach out. I'm here to help you. So let's start. This week we're going to be discussing Chapter 9, and it's all about presidential leadership. How ironic. Each day I will communicate assignments and due dates and all the information that you need. Again, you'll find it on your Modules tab. So today we're going to be discussing Section 1 of Chapter 9, which is Presidential Powers. What I need you to do is I need you to watch the attached video, read pages 244 to 250 in your book, submit a 1 to 2 paragraph summary of any current event article on our state government, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, and complete the 9-1 discussion questions. They will be attached as well for you. The current event summary and the discussion questions, they are due tomorrow by 8 a.m. So use your time wisely today, get the assignments done, and make sure I have it by 8 a.m. tomorrow. As far as your current event summary, there's lots of things going on both at the federal level and the state level with our government with this virus. But just to give you an example, give you an idea of what we're talking about, I saw this in Friday's paper. Containment debate heats up, whether the governor is going to have a mandatory lockdown, things of that nature. Lee Health is redeploying some of their staff at various hospitals. Commissioners are considering a shelter in place, all those kind of things. So you will not have any problem find some current events about what our local and state governments are doing about this virus right now. So let's start to look at some of the presidential powers. When we start looking at our Constitution, when it comes to presidential powers, there are not many that are specifically mentioned in the Constitution. As presidents have expanded their power over time to reflect the changing needs of a nation and certainly the personalities of the president. If you just stop and just think about what's going on right now with President Trump, the power that he's exuding right now, because our country's facing something that we haven't seen in a long time. They're starting to go back and reflect on the Spanish flu in 1917 or 1918. So obviously the presidential powers that President Trump are using right now, he's doing this because of the changing needs of our nation right now. During these crazy times, President Trump, he is using all his power and his leadership to meet the immediate needs of our nation. And basically he's following a term that we need to understand is mandate, which is nothing more than the expressed will of the people have shaped the office of the presidency. So what Mr. Trump is doing right now, President Trump is doing, is he's listening to the people. We have all 50 states are infected with this virus. People are frightened. People are scared. And what Mr. Trump is doing is he is using his power and his leadership to help minimize this fear, right? There's a motto going out, facts, not fear, that type thing. So the president is using a lot of his power right now to help the American people. He has news conferences every single day. If you haven't seen one, I would suggest you watch one. He has his staff, and his staff is there to support him and answer some questions about what's going on and what's the latest updates. Governor Cuomo of New York is on the news every day. He has a news conference as well, just trying to give updates of what's going on in his state of New York. So the president, right, has used lots of power in his leadership during the times just to meet the needs of the nation, and that's certainly what we see going on today. Looking back in our history, earlier we had discussed the Articles of Confederation. That was our first attempt as a country to have a government, and where that government failed, the Articles of Confederation failed, was the very fact that it did not have an executive branch. So once we took that Articles of Confederation, said that didn't work, and we came up with the Constitution that we have today. Obviously, we have an executive branch, and the president heads that branch. The founding fathers, they wanted a strong executive branch that would protect the liberty, the private property, and businesses, and hold the legislative branch in check. Yesterday, I guess on Friday, the president signed that stimulus package, $2.2 trillion, the largest in our country's history. And that is the way that the president, along with the help of the legislative branch, Congress, is trying to make sure that our economy stays intact. When we look at our Constitution, if we look at Article 2, it grants the president broad but vague powers, and we've seen that displayed over the last several weeks, certainly with President Trump. But some of the things that are outlined, certainly in the Article 2, is the president is commander-in-chief of the armed forces, heads the executive branch, appoints nominees, appoints judges, works with the legislative branch, and as we've talked about in the past, that will faithfully execute the laws of the land. And we have seen where the president, by law, is required to deliver a State of the Union address. Looking back in our history, many presidents have exercised their personal power to meet the needs of the nation at the time. Thomas Jefferson in the Louisiana Purchase is just one. We have Abraham Lincoln, obviously did his. Teddy Roosevelt, he made some big decisions at the time, and they used these powers that weren't expressly written. They weren't in the Constitution. There was just an immediate need of the nation, and these presidents stepped up to the plate and reacted accordingly. And again, that's what we see going on with this virus and what's going on with President Trump right now. He's doing things that are really unheard of. He's asking so many people, the private sector, the government to pitch in, all the people to come together. He's asking us, the American people, to do the social distancing, to do these things. So these powers aren't written in the Constitution, but these are the powers that the president can use to meet the will and the needs of the people at the time. In terms of presidential power, another term we need to talk about is this idea of a mandate, which is strong popular support. It's one of the greatest sources of the power a president can have. And basically all it says is it needs the people to be behind the president and his decisions. And that's what we see going on right now. Yes, there's certainly people we have detractors, but this country is starting to come together because we are all one, and we need to face this thing together. So the president right now, in terms of his popularity ratings and the support that he's getting on both sides of the aisle from the Republicans and the Democrats, we're starting to see that support, and that's what we need right now. So the president can use those powers, and have the support of the people to get things done to meet the needs of the people. People often judge a president's ideas according to the personal appeal of the president on television, a fact that the president knows very well, and certainly Mr. Trump tries to use that to his advantage. Major newspapers, major news outlets, magazines provide what we refer to as a forum, which is a medium for discussion for the presidential messages. But again, we've talked about this in class. You need to be careful who you listen to. There's obviously some newspapers, some media outlets that look favorably upon the president, and there's others that not so much, where the president can't do anything correct. So be careful who you listen to when it comes to the media. And yes, there are limits on the presidential power. The founding fathers were quite brilliant when they put this, our Constitution together, and they put in those checks and balances where the three branches, they were tied to each other, and it was built and it was put together that no one branch could dominate the other two. So they would all be equal in terms of their power, and they would be subject to each other. The American people expect their president to be a symbolic leader of the nation. They expect their president to always act with courage and dignity. However, with the founding fathers, when they built this into the Constitution, there was no provisions for regulating the moral character of a president. Public opinion, especially through the use of mass media, we have 24/7 news today, supports the checks and balances that serve to limit the power of the president as well as the other two branches. In summary, let's look at one or two questions here. Why do president powers tend to grow in times of a national emergency? We are going through a national emergency right now. And the answer to that question is that Congress has often granted a president special powers, especially during these times. Again, just this past week, Congress, the two houses, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, came together to get this stimulus package passed through. Many thought it couldn't be done. And then when we start looking at, we try to summarize what are the sources of and the limits to the power of the president. The sources for the power of the president is the Constitution, the needs of the nation, the personality and the influence of the president himself, and the mandate of the people. The limits on the powers of the president is Congress, right, the legislative branch, the federal court system, public opinion, and just the gridlock of Washington. So the work that you need to complete today is you need a current event article about our state or local government and how they're reacting and the things that they're doing in regard to the virus right now. And then you have to complete Section 1 questions, Chapter 9, Section 1 questions. Explain the significance of a mandate / then a forum. What 3 ways have former presidents expanded the power of their office? And then, in your opinion, has President Trump expanded the power of his office lately, and how and why? So what I need you to do is have all that information, the current event, and these questions to me no later than tomorrow by 8 a.m. I would use your time today to do the work, and you'll have it done. Send it to me via email, and then we will meet tomorrow and start talking about Section 2. You have a great day.